this week on the show.
Pulling down the past.
I believe that the monuments would not give a tribute to the regime, but they should preserve the history and the memory.
Feeling the heat.
We're getting major fires every year now, in multiple ones.
Oh my God.
And up to our knees in an Estonian bog.
There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot.
For 300 years, on and off, Estonia was part of Russia. Ruled first by the Tsarist Empire, then the Soviet Union. Links between the two are many and deep. In fact, around a third of the people here have Russian as their first language.
But since the invasion of Ukraine in February, the government has steered a course very firmly away from its powerful neighbour. There have been travel bans for Russian tourists and something even more dramatic.
Historic Russian and Soviet monuments are being removed from public view, and not just here. The other Baltic states, Latvia and Lithuania, are making similar symbolic gestures. This was among the first, a replica tank commemorating Soviet soldiers killed during World War II. It's been moved to Estonia's War Museum from the town of Narva, which sits right on the Russian border. The government says it's to avert what it calls increasing social tension.
Oh wow, look at this.
Very welcome. The T-34 was produced from May 40s to 60s, more than 80,000. So it's extremely ordinary tank, nothing special.
Wow, I mean, you say nothing special, but I mean, that is like a rock.
That's why it is tank. Actually.
Why do you think a museum is a better place for these sorts of objects?
That's why the museums are created for, to keep the history. It's a question of symbols. And for our people, that is a symbol of occupation, that's a symbol of Soviet rule, and we want to turn the new page. As you can see, we not destroy it, we keep it.
But the links are impossible to sever. So many of the big public spaces around the capital are Russian built. They're bold, architecturally distinctive, and pretty popular too.
These days, the Peter the Great Seaplane Harbour is a maritime museum, painstakingly restored. The foreboding Paterai Sea Fortress now hosts gigs and club nights. And Noblesna Port, Imperial Russia's vast submarine factory, is fast becoming Tallinn's new leisure district. As well as cafes, bars and new luxury apartments on the way, there's this, Proto. Its owners call it an invention factory. It's sort of an interactive museum.
So as we cycle, the little cyclists on the track go around. So it's a race now.
Yes, it's a competition, yeah.
So tell me more about this incredible building. I presume it hasn't always hosted parlour games.
Exactly this building, it was the foundry
Wow.
of the shipyard. Next to it was the coopersmith, then there were some storages, local power plant, the engine generator workshop and assembly workshop, so huge area where the submarines were produced. Yes.
Among all the family attractions, there are still glimpses of the building's former life.
This is a control panel to open the gate, which is
Oh, here we
this
go.
is exactly this giant gate.
That is a giant gate.
Yes, that was used to take the ships out of the foundry.
Oh, right. So they bring them in and out here.
Yeah.
You'd press the button and then
Yeah.
rumble on up. So how do you feel about the Russian and Soviet monuments being taken down?
Well, I believe that the monuments would not kind of like give a tribute to the regime, but they should preserve the history and the memory. In this case, the best place for the monument is in a museum. We have this place. This is a wonderful way of people to learn the history and to remember the history.
So it's preserving the history, not celebrating the ideology.
Absolutely right.
These spaces are being lovingly restored. Money and hard work have been spent to make them attractive. Some haven't had that treatment, but have become popular nonetheless.
This is Rumu. It was one of a string of Soviet-run prisons that used to stretch across Estonia. It's got quite a grim backstory. That's all history now, right?
From their arrival in 1940, the Soviets used prisoners here to mine and process limestone from the quarry. When Estonia regained its independence in 1991, the site was abandoned and reclaimed by rising groundwater. Today, it's become popular with swimmers, divers and snorkelers.
So, what can you tell me about this building and what it would have been when it was a functioning prison?
Prisoners were working on all positions. They were working in this building, they were working in a mine where they were digging out the material. They were also working as the ones who were making the explosions to get the material off. So most probably they are the reason why this quarry was floated.
The limestone makes the water such a striking colour that some call it the Blue Lagoon.
I think the most precious places here is the visibility. As you see today, we can see almost like 5-6 meters, 4 for sure. And every time I go diving here, I see something new.
There's a complicated legacy of this place given its history.
I think the persons that were staying in this prison, for sure, they don't want to come back here. But for the rest of us, it's mainly the place we can spend the summertime or enjoy the water because it's really warm and it's really good visibility here and we can see everything inside. I really love being here in the water.
Sigrid has genuine affection for Rumu. She wants to preserve it and stop it falling into the hands of developers.
This could be considered as having a very strong association with the Soviet period. Do you think that these sorts of places should be preserved or taken down?
That it depends on the place and it depends on the monument maybe, because most of them have been taken down already. Maybe the ones that we can use for the future to have the place to go to see some pieces of history, they should stay where they are.
Estonia is at a crossroads. Many people are happy to see this country distanced from the Russian regime. But there's a shared history here, one that's not going to be disappearing anytime soon.
And if you're thinking of heading to Estonia, here are some travel show tips to help with your planning.
Tallinn is a classic Christmas market sort of town, and it looks lovely lit up in the town hall square from late November. Pay attention to the tree. Estonians reckon their capital was home to Europe's first Christmas tree in 1441. That claim is disputed by Latvia, but Tallinn still makes a big deal of it nonetheless. A couple of highlights from the old town. Old Hansa is a super touristy but fun medieval themed restaurant just around the corner from the Gothic town hall. It claims its food is still made to 17th century recipes. Also nearby is Nigulista Museum in the 12th century St Nicholas Church. The big showpiece there is Bernd Notke's Dance Macabre, which invites you to think about the futility of life. And sauna culture is everywhere in Estonia. There's a good chance there'll be one wherever you're staying. But look out for smoke saunas, where you'll sweat in the aroma of stripped alder and birch logs.
Still to come on the travel show.
Reflections on the summer of intense heat across the Northern Hemisphere.
Are they sweet? Oh.
And the sweet, sweet taste of Estonia's bogs.
They're very sour.
So don't go away.
This week we're exploring Estonia, and just while we're in the capital of Tallinn, I wanted to show you this.
This is a remote working pod. It's in the middle of a shopping centre, right in the cool part of town. And places like this have been popping up since the pandemic throughout Tallinn.
The authorities have been keen to encourage people to come and work in Estonia for an extended length of time, and as a result have introduced special 30-day digital nomad visas.
And it's not just the visas. In Tallinn, they've installed Wi-Fi across the city. All key services are online, and cool co-working spaces like this are popping up all over.
These office huts overlook the Baltic.
Hi, how are you doing? Hi, Miguel. Nice to meet you. Good to meet you. Oh, isn't it toasty warm in here?
You need to experience the Estonian winter because it's something completely different. It's dark and it's cold, but it's also very cozy and warm.
What is it about Tallinn that makes this such a great place for digital nomads?
There are very cool co-working spaces all around. There's a very good tech scene, also a very good startup scene that is it's very open and friendly.
Everything invites you to, to relax, to focus on your job.
And in case you were in any doubt about how they like to finish the working day here, this place has 4 offices and 5 saunas.
Hi, my name is Miriam Nielsen, and I'm working toward my PhD at Columbia University studying hydroclimate extremes. I also make YouTube videos about climate change and climate activism. This summer, and frankly the last several years, the Northern Hemisphere especially has been seeing these intense, dramatic heat waves that are predominantly caused by increasing global temperature like climate change. And we're seeing that in places like the UK and California.
You know, what you're seeing in Yosemite and the Sierra is more fires. And this year, boy, when I first moved up here about 25 years ago, we'd get, maybe one major fire every 5 to 10 years. We're getting major fires every year now, in multiple ones.
The problems are the melting snow on the glaciers. So we have a lot more crevasse incidents because the snow coverage on the glaciers is totally thinned out. And then many places the glaciers are receding. We had to basically stop guiding certain trips on certain glaciers because it just became too dangerous for a while because the snow bridges on the glaciers were too thin, and this has increased the number of accidents with crevasses.
What basically happened is that the jet stream, which is this meandering current of air, got stuck in one place. And so all of this hot air from northern Africa ended up piling up. That led to really, really high temperatures, which impacts everyone from sitting at home to, snowpack on mountaintops.
I mean, I'm not the climate expert, but obviously there is climate change in place. And if it continues like this, I think we just need to maybe adapt our scheduling, programming, and all these ice fields are literally gone.
There's absolutely some things you can do. We don't know the cause of the Washburn fire, but it was human. There was no lightning that day. So somebody dropped a cigarette, somebody did something. So just be aware if you're from areas where maybe it's not as dry, even parking your car off pavement, on dry grass, that has sparked fires up here that people have lost homes over. Campfires are banned at most elevations during the summer, but still don't even try it. We have had fires that have started, and again, people have lost home by illegal campfires. So I think it's just be aware of the environment around you during the summer in California, even in a non-drought year. It's dry, we don't have rain for months, it is ready to spark at the slightest human error. So be aware of all your actions when you're visiting the park.
So the thing that I try to cling to is that with all these disasters, from heat waves to flooding, is that none of them are really new. Humans have experienced all these events for a very, very long time, and we've built structures and communities to cope with them. And we can keep doing that, and we can respond to how the world is changing around us. Well, obviously traveling can be a huge source of emissions. Spending time outside is one of the least emitting things you can do. And if you go looking for it, you can find these beautiful natural spaces basically anywhere.
I've left the capital Tallinn now, and I'm making for Estonia's countryside.
This looks almost like savannah, it just goes on forever.
And for a landscape whose reputation has done something of an about-face in recent years.
Around 7% of Estonia is made up of this bogland. And it's fair to say, in the past, not everyone was a huge fan. In fact, people would regard a landscape like this with horror because folklore said that this is exactly the kind of place where you might be waylaid by evil spirits.
Times have changed though, and it's now becoming apparent just how useful these bogs are. The world's peatlands store twice as much carbon as forest, according to the UN, and that makes them enormously valuable in the fight against climate change.
It's odd to see a digger at work in a forest and to know that it's doing good. Marcus, hello, I'm Christa, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
As a result, Estonia is making efforts to restore and re-bog some of the land that was drained decades ago.
What is this big, I mean, it looks like mud, but is this peat?
Yeah, that is peat. Actually, it's if you look, it's almost decayed, but not totally decomposed plant material. And here it was maybe depth of peat layer is 2 meters, which means that approximately the lowest layers are 2,000 years old. We're trying to restore the forest habitats because in 1960s, back then, this type of landscape was considered as total wasteland.
Why is it important to restore these peatlands?
It is important for carbon emissions. We want to stop carbon emissions here. We want that this peatland would store carbon, not emitting it.
But people here are also finding out what a stunning playground this environment is.
Glad to meet you.
Good to meet you too. I've got my gumboots ready.
Very good.
Ready to hit the bogs?
Let's go.
Ivar is a guide who lives, works and plays here in Sumar National Park. He floats through the bogs in his canoe, skates and sledges on them in the winter, and stomps through them in these.
Any tips?
It's not that difficult actually. You just walk, and one important thing when you want to turn back, you always come with a U-turn. You don't step like this because of this, but U-turn, it works well.
Okay, these are one-way bog shoes.
Yes, only forward.
Okay.
Bog shoes are a bit like snowshoes, and our crew soon discovers the importance of wearing them.
Don't fall over, George.
Yeah, like tripod is okay too. There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot.
Jordan has just emptied about a litre of water out of his boot. And that is why you wear bog shoes. So yeah, what's all this made up of? Because it feels like we're walking on a big sponge.
Yeah, it's mostly made of the moss, more specifically sphagnum moss. So this is the plant here.
Ah, okay.
And if you take some of it, yeah, like, so you can
it's
see.
really like a sponge, isn't it?
So it is
so it's like a
growing up, so it is rottening down there, or becoming peat. But in the top it is growing. It's green, yeah, like a.
Yes. Well, as you can see, it's living. It's sort of a.
Yeah, and it is full of water, so doesn't look like water, but if you squeeze it, you see.
Oh wow! Look at that.
It may look like a barren landscape, but there's plenty here to forage.
It looks like someone's just spilled some berries on the ground.
Do you want to taste?
I do. I've had cranberry juice before, but I've never had a cranberry.
Yeah, they are sour.
Are they sweet? Oh. They're very sour.
Not that sour.
And there's just one final chilly treat that Ivor's keen to show me.
All right. Are you sure about this?
Not really.
Is this a good idea?
No.
Oh God! I can already feel how cold it is.
Actually, it's quite cold. This water makes you feel like skin is soft and makes you like a little bit younger.
I mean, it'd want to because it's really cold. Oh God! It's really cold. Oh, it's really, really cold. I can see how, after a bit of working up a sweat, bog shoeing, this would be a nice sort of shock to the system. So how far does this go down?
A few meters, so if you... There is no bottom, yeah?
So I think the verdict for the bog swimming is absolutely freezing cold when you don't come in the summer. Wow, but I mean, what a setting. Well, I definitely needed to warm up after that. But that's all we have for this week's programme. Don't forget, you can catch up on our recent adventures by going to BBC iPlayer. And there's plenty of other great travel content from around the BBC. Just follow the handles on the screen now. Until next time, stay warm and bye-bye.